Although we all love The Simpsons, we can agree that the show has a few episodes best forgotten. Here are 5 of the worst Simpsons episodes that we are trying to forget. We will start with an episode that featured one of the biggest pop stars on the planet, as well as some of the worst reviews for a Simpsons episode. Introducing Lisa Goes Gaga from season 23. On her way to a concert, Lady Gaga makes a pit stop in Springfield and quickly notices something's off. The whole town's self-esteem is in the dumps. Lisa Simpson's feeling at the worst. She just found out her classmates voted her the most unpopular student. Desperate to boost her image, Lisa starts ghostwriting nice things about herself on the school's anonymous blog, Truth Teller. But things go south when Bart catches wind of Lisa's plan. Being Bart, he wastes no time in spilling the beans to the entire school, tanking Lisa's already fragile social status even further. Meanwhile, Lady Gaga, who apparently has a psychic sense for these things, picks up on Lisa's depression and heads straight to Springfield to lend a hand. When Lady Gaga arrives, she gets the town buzzing, with Kent Brockman covering her arrival on the local news. Back at the Simpsons household, Lisa is feeling crushed as she reads a headline in the Daily Fourth Gradian that reads, "Top student hits bottom." Homer, ever the schemer, decides to invite Lady Gaga over to cheer Lisa up, and soon the whole family is off to Union Station for Gaga's concert. At the concert, Lady Gaga kicks things off with her hit song Monster, but mid-performance, she gets another psychic alert and spots a tearful Lisa in the crowd. Gaga doesn't miss a beat. She leaves the stage, goes undercover, and takes Lisa back to the Simpson house to figure out how to boost her spirits. Once they're home, Gaga checks out the school's message board where she finds the cruel comments that have been eating away at Lisa. While Lisa cries in her room, Gaga tries to teach her how to be her own biggest fan. But despite her best efforts, Lisa's still down, and Gaga decides she can't leave until she's helped Lisa find her hope again. Lisa eventually asks to be left alone in her room to think. Later that evening, Lady Gaga chats with Marge in the kitchen, and Marge admits she's at a loss for how to help Lisa. Marge starts to cry, and in a tender moment, Gaga reaches out to comfort her, but then decides that a little face-grabbing might be more effective than hand-holding. The next morning, Marge and Gaga realize Lisa snuck out during the night, and they set off to find her. After multiple attempts to lift Lisa's spirits, she finally snaps at Lady Gaga, but this outburst turns out to be exactly what Lisa needed. She realizes that letting out her anger is better than bottling it up. Feeling a weight lifted, Lisa runs off to find Lady Gaga, apologizes, and the two share a heartfelt duet. Lady Gaga's work in Springfield is done, and she's about to head out when Mo shows up, hoping she can work some of her magic on him. Gaga, however, politely declines and hits the road. Doesn't sound too bad, right? So why do Simpsons fans hate this one so much? Most people agree that the plot revolves around Lady Gaga too much, and feels like a commercial for her music. Plus, a lot of people feel that it just wasn't very funny, which is, really important for a comedy show. Next up is Bart vs. Itchy and Scratchy, a Simpsons episode that got perhaps too tone-deaf for today's modern political climate. It starts at KrustyCon, where Krusty the Clown drops a bombshell during a live interview. He's rebooting the Itchy and Scratchy show with an all-female cast. Lisa is thrilled by the news, while Bart is completely horrified. He and his buddies, Milhouse, Nelson, Martin, Dolph, Jimbo, and Kearney, all make a pact to not watch the show. On the night of the premiere, Bart throws a block party at his house, where the boys cover their eyes and ears to avoid accidentally seeing the show. Meanwhile, upstairs, Lisa eagerly tunes in and live streams her reaction on YouTube, calling it a historic moment in cartoon women's history. Curiosity eventually gets the better of Bart, and he sneaks upstairs to catch a peek of the show. He ends up laughing harder than Lisa at one of the gags. Lisa catches him in the act, and teases him for enjoying the female reboot. Bart is embarrassed and warns her to keep quiet while claiming no one would believe her anyway. He then slips back downstairs and pretends that he never left the party. Little does he know, his reaction was caught on Lisa's live stream, and she wastes no time spreading the clip all over the internet. Only hours later, Bart's hypocrisy has gone viral online. The next day, Bart's world comes crashing down, and soon everyone at school knows how much he loved the show. Milhouse, Nelson, Ralph, Dolph, Jimbo, and Kearney are furious and chase Bart down the halls, using Ralph as a makeshift weapon. Desperate, Bart ducks into the girls' bathroom, knowing it's the one place his enemies won't dare enter. Inside, he encounters 3 radical feminist girls who are just as mischievous as he is. They introduce themselves as members of Bossy Riot, a feminist prankster group dedicated to fighting back against misogyny. Bart is intrigued and wants in, but the girls are hesitant to let a boy join. To prove himself, Bart steals Principal Skinner's phone and impresses the girls enough to let him join their ranks. In retaliation, Milhouse forms his own group, the Boys' Rights Association, and he rallies all the boys, including Ralph, Lewis, Wendell, Hubert, and Database. Meanwhile, Bossy Riot goes on a rampage across town by pulling pranks, vandalizing property and causing chaos. Their antics even catch the attention of Kent Brockman on the evening news. Lisa begins to suspect Bart is involved with Bossy Riot, and when she confronts him, he admits he's joined the feminist pranksters. Shocked, but also intrigued, Lisa asks to join the group. However, things take a dark turn when the Boys' Rights Association retaliates by burning the new Itchy and Scratchy toys. Bossy Riot plans to escalate by burning all the original masters of the show. Horrified, Bart tries to stop them but ends up tied to a mannequin. Lisa swoops in to rescue him, and together they rush to Krusty Lou Studios to prevent the destruction. At the studio, Lisa saves the day by using nail polish removal to disable the boys, who blame Milhouse for the mess and kick him out as their leader. Chief Wiggum tries to chase down the girls of Bossy Riot, but they outsmart him at every turn. Outside the studio, the girls reveal that Bart was never a true member. He was just there to provide fingerprints and DNA as a scapegoat. They invite Lisa to join the group before riding off on their bikes. Lisa happily accepts the invitation, and Bart, feeling a bit left out but still supportive, writes "The patriarchy is a wiener" on a wall with a paint can. As the credits roll, Bart reconnects with his old crew, sharing his experience with Bossy Riot. He jokes about the girls not envying the boys, leaving his friends both confused and impressed. Bart is welcomed back into the fold, and life in Springfield returns to its usual chaos. The political nature of this episode didn't sit well with many fans, and they felt it was confused and had multiple agendas working against each other at the same time. Therefore, it's not surprising to hear that this episode has a weak 4.6 rating on IMDb. Now we have an episode that features the classic comedic duo of Cheech and Chong. Sadly, A Midsummer's Nice Dreams doesn't seem to feature a whole lot of comedy. The episode begins when the Simpsons are at a live Cheech and Chong show. Things take an unexpected turn when Chong, fed up with the same old routine, decides to mix things up. But his improv goes off the rails and he ends up walking off stage. Cue Homer, who's thrilled to jump in and fill the spot, before nailing the classic "Dave's not here, man" skit from memory. This impresses Cheech so much that he invites Homer to join him on tour as part of the new duo, Cheech and Chunk. At first, Homer's living the dream, but soon he realizes that the real Cheech and Chong are nothing like their laid-back stoner personas. Instead of the wild and carefree lifestyle he imagined, he finds out that being on tour is more about early bedtimes and careful planning than endless partying. Meanwhile, Chong teams up with Seymour Skinner to form Teach and Chong, but as you might guess, their act falls flat. As the tour goes on, Homer starts to miss the real Cheech and Chong vibe. After some convincing, he manages to get the iconic duo back together, restoring things to how they should be. Back in Springfield, Marge discovers that the crazy cat lady is a full-blown hoarder. Marge, being Marge, decides to help out and clears out all the clutter from her home. But in the process, she starts seeing treasures in the trash and begins to hoard the valuable items for herself. Before very long, Marge's own home is packed with junk. To snap Marge out of her new obsession, Homer brings the crazy cat lady back to their house. Seeing all her old belongings triggers her hoarding habit again, and she returns to her old ways, much to Marge's relief. Although now, Marge has to deal with her own clutter problem. No one was really blown away by this episode and felt that the jokes fell flat, and the plot just sort of meandered. They also said that the major plots of the episode didn't work very well together, making it even more forgettable. Plus, no offense to Cheech and Chong, but much of the young audience watching The Simpsons weren't huge fans of their comedy, which was popular decades before. On to another episode that featured a guest star performance that just didn't really work that well. Like the Lady Gaga episode, The Musk Who Fell to Earth spent too much time revolving around its big-name guest. When the episode begins, the Simpsons are just hanging out in their backyard when Elon Musk lands in his high-tech spacecraft. He casually steps out and explains that he's in Springfield searching for some fresh inspiration. Naturally, Homer insists that Elon check out the power plant in hopes of impressing the billionaire. The next day, Elon starts picking up on the fact that Homer is brimming with crazy new ideas. This catches Elon's attention, and he's soon meeting with Mr. Burns. Before long, Elon has Burns convinced to build a magnet-to-hydrodynamic generator for the plant. Mr. Burns is so impressed he offers Elon a job, but Elon turns him down, saying he's not in it for the money, a fact that shocks Mr. Burns. Elon and Mr. Burns then present their big plan to Springfield, promising that the plant will take care of all the town's electrical needs. But the skeptical Smithers doesn't quite trust Elon and starts keeping a close eye on him. Elon casually mentions that he's also been working on self-driving cars. Bart and Lisa can't resist and they sneak into the family's car, disable the auto-drive mode using Elon's master password, and take it for a wild joyride. Their little adventure ends at the plant, where Elon drops a bombshell. The town is losing about $50 million every quarter, which leaves Mr. Burns in a state of utter panic. Elon, however, is all about saving the plant and doesn't seem too fazed. But Mr. Burns? Not so much. He's more worried about the plant's bottom line and the fact that, thanks to Elon, massive layoffs are on the horizon. In a rare moment, Mr. Burns even apologizes to Smithers after mistakenly thinking he was bad-mouthing Elon. Mr. Burns soon hatches a plan to take Elon out of the picture permanently. The next day, while Elon is chilling with Homer, Mr. Burns tries to assassinate Elon, but the attempt goes sideways, and the bullet ends up heading straight for Homer. In a heroic move, Elon saves Homer, but Homer, following Marge's advice, breaks the news that they can't be friends anymore. Elon heads back to his rocket ship, ready to leave Springfield behind. But before blasting off, he makes a quick stop at the Simpson house to return Lisa, who had been hiding in his rocket. To cheer her up, Elon leaves the family with a futuristic birdhouse as a parting gift. Then he finally departs while reflecting on his time with Homer. As he watches a hologram of one of Homer's last ideas, he can't help but shed a tear, realizing that somehow holograms always miss the point. And with that, Elon's spacecraft soars off into the distance, ending his Springfield adventure. This was an episode that catered way too much to the guest star and didn't leave much room for anything else. Plus, a lot of fans felt that Elon Musk himself wasn't all that funny and his performance was awkward. Finally, we have an episode that some fans consider the moment when The Simpsons jumped the shark. Even though it aired nearly 25 years ago, people are still arguing about the principal and the pauper. This episode starts with Seymour Skinner gearing up to celebrate his 20th anniversary as the principal of Springfield Elementary, and everything seems to be going smoothly. But just as the festivities kick off, a man bursts in claiming that he's the real Seymour Skinner, and even points out that Agnes Skinner is his mother. The revelation shocks everyone, and soon Principal Skinner admits that he's not who everyone thinks he is. In fact, he's an imposter. He spills the beans about his true identity, Armin Tamzarian. Armin shares his story, which is a wild ride straight out of a movie. Growing up in Capital City, Armin was a troublemaker much like Bart. Eventually, his rebellious streak caught up with him, and he found himself in front of a judge. The judge gave him two options: do time in prison, or join the military and fight in the war. Armin chose the latter, heading off to Vietnam. While he eventually wanted to return to his old life, everything changed when he met Sergeant Seymour Skinner. The sergeant instilled in Armin a sense of purpose and discipline that he had never known. But when Skinner went missing in action, Armin felt compelled to go to Agnes Skinner's house to break the news. However, when Agnes mistook him for her son, Armin couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth, and ended up assuming Seymour Skinner's identity. Feeling like a fraud and believing that Springfield no longer needs him, Armin decides to leave his job as principal and head back to Capital City to start over. The real Seymour Skinner steps in to take over as principal, but things don't go as smoothly as he had hoped. The townspeople quickly start to dislike the real Skinner, especially after he harshly scolds Bart for messing with the Pledge of Allegiance. His strict, no-nonsense attitude clashes with everyone in town, and even Agnes finds herself missing Armin. At the supermarket, Agnes vents her frustration to Marge about how terrible things have become with Sergeant Skinner around. Even Edna Crabapple chimes in, admitting that while Armin might have been a bit of a wimp, he was definitely more likable than the real Skinner. With Springfield fed up with the new principal, the Simpsons hatch a plan to bring Armin back. They head to Capital City to convince Armin to return, but he's not interested. He feels that they have the real Skinner now, and it would be a mistake for him to come back. But Agnes won't hear it. She tells him that for 26 years, he's been the only one who ever called her mother, and she actually loves him more than the real Skinner, who's been nothing but disrespectful. Back in Springfield, Armin's return faces resistance from Superintendent Chalmers and Mayor Quimby, who don't want to forgive his past deception. But Homer steps in, arguing that no one in town really cares that Armin lied, they just want their Principal Skinner back. The townspeople agree, and after some whispering among themselves, they decide to let Armin resume his life as Seymour Skinner. The real Skinner isn't ready to give up so easily. He tries to remind everyone of the sacrifices he made for his country, and the fact that he's the rightful principal, but the townspeople have had enough. They force him to leave in a dramatic exit, tying him to a chair on a freight train and sending him on his way. Agnes bids him a not-so-fond farewell, and Armin is reinstated as Principal Skinner by Judge Snyder. The judge orders that from now on, Armin will reclaim Skinner's name, past, and job, and decrees that no one will ever mention Tamzarian again. And just like that, everything in Springfield goes back to normal, with a cheeky nod to how the town loves to hit the reset button on anything too disruptive. Even some of the show's producers and stars disliked this one, which they felt was disrespectful to audiences and also to the character of Principal Skinner. Harry Shearer, the voice of Skinner, and Simpson creator Matt Groening have both said they hate this episode. And there you have it, the 5 worst Simpsons episodes that all of us have tried to move on from. Subscribe for more.